Howdy ho, good neighbors. What's going on? It's Phil Russert. Hope everybody's having a good day. Just trying to get back in the swing of things after just a brutal couple of weeks. Thanks to everybody who reached out and supported and checked on me and saw how everything was going. And some of you were very consistent, and thank you. As far as the background noise, it is the culmination of the birthday party for Melanie's 12th, and her friends are all here running around like little monsters. Anyway, I watched late last night. Oh, it was like 3 in the morning. I watched X-Men 97, episode 6. I had seen 5 the week before, and I watched The Bad Batch. I don't watch a lot of stuff these days. But I watched those, and it got me thinking. How much of I don't read new comics anymore. I've stopped, and I'm sure that some of them are still very good. So this isn't a commentary to knock anything. It's just kind of exploring the generation changes, writing to new generations. Are you being written out, so to speak, as a fan? What are the reasons why a lot of the older people are not into new storytelling? And, it's not just comics, it's TV, it's movies, etc. And, I was thinking about it. Like, I grew up on Happy Days and Three's Company. And even though Three's Company had sexual innuendo, it was more innocent, it was silly. Happy Days was corny as hell, but we loved it. But as the generations get older, we become a little darker, a little more cynical, I think. And then like Happy Days looks really cheesy and really stupid, to us. And maybe nostalgia is what we hold on to. I think the same is with comics. Now, comics had serious content, the death of Gwen Stacy and things like that. But it was done in a way that was a little more wholesome, a little more conducive to younger people reading it. It wasn't, as much as there were dark themes, it wasn't as dark and gritty as I think things are now. I think media always reflects life, and life has gotten darker and harder and angrier. And I think that's why we get more shows like The Boys than we do something that might be considered Boy Scoutish and cheesy, like a Happy Days. We don't see anything like that anymore. I mean, it's obvious that old TV was a lot more wholesome than now. The Little Rascals, Leave It to Beaver, and is that a natural progression, or is that a sign of us becoming just more bitter and negative as people, because media follows life, right? So we went from Leave It to Beaver and the Little Rascals and wholesome cartoons like Hanna-Barbera to The Boys and like really gritty, dark stuff. Sorry about the noise. The kids are playing around. So part of that, I think, is why I'm just not into modern day storytelling as much. I mean, as much as I do enjoy some stories like The Boys in a way, I feel there's too much of it. And I kind of, as I get older, I find myself wanting to look back at more of the more even keel, more wholesome stuff. Like Greatest American Hero I've been watching again. And it's just, I don't know, it was a different time. And how much of that is me being old and enjoying the nostalgia of more innocent times for me? And how much of that is I'm just enjoying more innocent times, and I think right now it's not so innocent. It's kind of dark. It's kind of gritty. It's kind of angry, and it's reflecting. And again, we had stories like Speedy on drugs and Gwen Stacy and and Crisis of Infinite Earths. There was like, it wasn't like totally childish, but it was still done in a way I think that was a little more fantastical and majestic. Available and appropriate for larger audiences, younger people, etc., as opposed to this angry, bitter stuff, And I look and I watch episode 5 of X-Men 97, and that was dark and it was gritty, but it had a story element that I think is lacking in most comics and other stories today, and that's the human element. We all struggle. We all face struggles. We all face formidable things in life. Life can be very hard. We face our issues of depression or anger or frustration, and life is getting harder. I think it's getting darker. It's getting harder, and angrier. And, I think deep down, though, we all want the hero's journey. We want to feel like we can still overcome, and we want to relate to that. We used to have stories that the heroes went through hell, but their hard work, their altruism, their integrity, it mattered. And in the end, they overcame. And I think deep down, that's what we want. That's what we need, right? We need to know that we can do it. We can overcome all the bad stuff without having to be the bad person. But we've gotten rid of the hero. It's the anti-hero. And I'm guilty of that because tragedy is not a pure, genuine hero. Some of my stories are, but tragedy is not. And I'm not saying to get rid of all that. I just think we're inundated with it. It's just flooding everything, right? It's all more cynical stuff, I think. Superman's always angry or killing somebody. They're always trying to make him evil. And Batman's got to be gritty, and the Joker's got to be even nastier and kill, freaking infants in the womb or whatever. It seems like it's becoming so dark. And we've gotten away from the hero's journey. We're making heroes give in to the bad side of things. And I wonder if that's why I'm not into the new stuff as much, because I just feel like it's all the same stuff now and the same messaging, and it's just bad. It's dark. It's negative. I mean, Superman's considered boring, the boring Boy Scout, unless he's depicted as always angry with his eyes glowing, ready to burn somebody, or he's pissed off, or he's made bad. And I don't, again, these are all my expressed opinions. I don't think that's a good thing. I think we need to balance it out. We always had Batman, but we always had Superman and Captain America and Wonder Woman at the same time. And it was a nice balance, right? I don't think we have that balance anymore. I mean, can we really relate to these people? And if we do, we're relating to the angry side of these people. We're relating to heroes that are pissed off and fed up at the world, like the movie Falling Down, right? With Michael Douglas. I relate to that movie very much so. But I don't want that to be what I relate to, if that makes any sense. And it feels like everything now is falling down. Like the enemies are nastier, and the good guys are getting nastier to meet them, And I don't know if that's a healthy thing for society and storytelling. We need heroes to aspire to be and look up to, And when you look at episode 5 of X-Men, as dark as it was, at the end, Magneto and Gambit, they were the heroes we always want to be. They were the ones making the sacrifices for the sake of others, no matter the cost, knowing that the day is going to be okay, that the day can be won, and that people can be okay. And I think a lot of stories miss that. And I think that's why episode 5 was very good and people loved it, because it hit you here. It hit us at the core of where we are as people. Deep down, I think most people want to be good. They want to be the hero. They want to be relevant. And as much as we're getting angrier and upset, I think we want that. And I hope that there's a resurgence, a renaissance of that to come back. Good point on socially relevant comics with the comparison to Speedy, the human element of things we all face. The hero's journey that Joseph Campbell talked about, the book, The Hero with 1,000 Faces and such negative storytelling is too easy and it's a one-trick pony, in your opinion. And I agree. Good points on Superman. There needs to be more balance. I agree with your analysis. So thank you. I appreciate that, Den. Thanks for joining the conversation. And I look at the Bad Batch, and that surprised me because I'm not into the military side of Star Wars, but I gave it a try, and that's been consistently good. And again, for the proper reasons, the human element, relating to the characters. Look, there's only so many stories you can tell, right? As far as plots, etc. Believe it or not, most stories come from the Bible. Like the stories we create are derivative of the Bible because they cover so many things, and they're also derivative of other storytelling, original storytelling, because it's really hard to come up with something new every time. But it's not so much coming up with a new story, but how you write the protagonist and the antagonist, right? And I feel like they're falling short today of how they write protagonists. I'll give you an example. Women. There's a very large push for strong protagonist women lately. and that in itself is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. We need strong women protagonists, right? It's a good thing. What I think is a bad thing is how they're writing them. They're writing the women flawless. Like they can do everything from the start. There's no hero's journey. There's no growth. There's no sacrifice. The hero that self-sacrifices, said great coverage. Yeah, you're right. Like look at Prey, the Predator movie. I thought that concept was great, going with the Native Americans. I thought it was a fantastic idea. And I thought having the protagonist being a female Native American was fine. Unfortunately, the narrative was showing how the misogyny of the males in that thing, which I think is agenda driven, and that's something else that I'm going to get into that I think is killing storytelling. And the other thing is this predator ripped a grizzly bear apart with its bare hands. Didn't use its weapons. It just ripped up a grizzly, and it slaughtered about 20 men, armed, tough, vicious men. And this young 16, I don't know how old she was, but she looked like she was a teenager, 16, 17, 18-year-old female, probably about 120 pounds tops, bested this predator one-on-one without getting hurt. She jumped 25 feet off a branch onto it. She got body slammed once and she was fine, but she even knew the tech better than this thing. And throughout the movie, she was piecing things together and figuring it out before everybody else did. And I think I don't want that for guys either, just so you know, because I think it's too easy. It doesn't show the struggles of a hero. If she didn't show any growth, it just made her look invincible. And I find that kind of unfair to women, because women go through a lot, whether it's their own physical body issues every month, and pregnancy and menopause. These are all the things that guys don't go through, or their hormone changes and fluctuations, to so many things. Women have a lot of internal struggles, as do men, just differently, that we face every day, and we keep moving on. And I think we've lost that. We're not writing. I don't think they write for what brings us together anymore, what makes us similar. I think they write for what separates us, and I'll elaborate. We're writing based on relating to this culture, relating to this race, relating to this gender, as opposed to, I don't care if you're black or Asian or Latino or white. Every one of us is a human that wants to feel relevant, has our moments of weakness and depression and feeling like the world is just too tough, and then our moments of triumph where we get up and we face the struggle anyway, and we say, bring it, we got this. And those are all the elements that stories used to tell that brought us together. Like I can read a Black Panther comic and not feel unrelated because they're a black cast, as long as they're written like humans, because they're humans. My daughters can read an all-male cast, and as long as they're written like humans, my daughters can relate. But we've gotten to the point where we want to write stories to fit boxes. We're going to cater to this to black people, because black people can only relate if it's a whole black cast. I don't agree with that. I think that's actually racist, because that's like saying black people aren't like everybody else. They have to specifically be that. And I think that's bullshit. Black people are just like everybody else. They have the same emotions, the same feelings, the same desires, the same motivations. How many black creators are in the indie scene right now, busting their ass and struggling just to tell good stories like the rest of us, right? It's not a race thing. It's a human thing, not race, the human race. And I think we're writing for the wrong reason, which gets into the agenda. I do think that there's agenda being pushed in writing now. And I think that hurts storytelling, because we're no longer looking to tell a story that connects with people. Because if you look back on all your favorite movies, now you may like some that are just simple, silly action or whatever, like a Godzilla movie or whatever, and that's fine. But if you look at what you really love, it's Shawshank Redemption, Scent of a Woman. Even if you look at a movie like Die Hard, you rooted for him. He was the underdog. The guy had no shoes on, a wife beater, and he was up against crazy odds. And he was fighting for his wife, his family, right? So, when you look back at your favorite stories, even in comics, it's the character-driven stuff. It's not any agenda or or it appealed to a certain race. I know plenty of black people, Latino people, Asian people that the death of Gwen Stacy was some good stuff to them, or Claremont's run in the X-Men. That was good stuff. And if we're enjoying X-Men 97, take a look, guys, because it's not being pulled from today's writing. It's being pulled from Claremont's different storylines. Now, they may be changing them a little, mashing them up, but this has all been X-Men like 190-something through 230 right now that they're doing stuff. I mean, Fall of the Mutants, Inferno, when Xavier was allegedly dead and he was away with the Shi'ar. It's all of that. And with a little bit of the Genosha stuff later. But so there is a reason why people are, even this generation is loving this show that is based on the stuff that I loved. So I look at it, how much of it is me really being old and bitter and get off my lawn? And how much of it is we've just declined in storytelling? We went from having writers that wrote books, novels, TV scripts and shows, and then they came to comics, or people that are just wonderful comic, or Chuck Dixon and Peter David, who really knew how to write comics, and Jeff Johns even in the early 2000s, that knew how to write a protagonist, how to write a story. I mean, Jeff Johns made you like Aquaman. He was a joke for decades, and making fun of himself in the book. It was great. Hey, Kenny. Thanks, man. So I really don't think it's me being old and bitter, because I'm open to new storytelling and new ideas when it's done well, like Bad Batch. Nostalgia has its power, but there's a reason why nostalgia has its power. I think things were just written for a larger audience and less angry and bitter. I think our society has become very angry and bitter, and our media reflects that. And it's basing on our carnal desires too. Everything's sexual and everything is angry, blowing up faces and banging each other openly and raw. So I'm not against that storytelling. I just don't think it should be everything. There's no variety anymore, I also think when I was growing up, I had one leg in my parents' generation of entertainment, and I had one leg in mine. While I was watching, Spider-Man's Amazing Friends and Dungeons and Dragons and Black Star and Silverhawks, I was watching Addams Family and Leave It to Beaver and the Little Rascals and the old Hanna-Barbera cartoons from the 60s. So I think we were a little more cultured as far as media. I knew who Frank Sinatra was and Three Dog Night while I was listening to Rush, Pink Floyd, and Genesis, and Pink Floyd, of course, was in the 60s too, though. So I think we were more cultured. You talk to people today and they don't know anything from the 90s or even early 2000s because it's not played anymore on TV. They're pushing all this hard negative stuff. DM says, for years, Japanese culture has provided great stories about women without coming across as overcompensating. Agreed. Then Chuck Dixon and Peter David did inroads with Batman and Aquaman. In my opinion, these characters are interesting and have many aspects. Batman and Aquaman. I agree. I think those are two of the best writers in the industry. Hey, Rally, happy belated birthday. I hope you had a great day. Now I'm going to get into a topic that's going to maybe trigger some people. It's not meant to. The whole woke thing. Now, first I want to say woke has two different ideological definitions, and that's where I think there's confusion and clash. For example, a lot of people they've been making posts, X-Men has always been woke, what is wrong with you, blah, blah, blah. Yes and no. That's true and it's not true. And the point is based on your ideological definition of woke. To certain people, woke means just addressing diverse people and backgrounds, races, cultures, etc., and giving them a moment to shine and addressing the issues that they face, which is a wonderful thing. We all experienced it with Giant Size X-Men #1, and nobody ever had a problem with it because that's what they did. They incorporated different cultures and brought them into the forefront, and that was wonderful. That is important and integral to storytelling. But woke, to some, is not about that. It's about forced diversity. It's about writing a story to check boxes as opposed to telling a good story. It's about agenda-driven activism where you're writing for the wrong reason. You're not writing quality stories. You're writing, to cater to a woman while putting down a man, or claiming that women, are oppressed all the time. I'm not here to debate what's right, what's wrong. I'm just saying that there are two different ideological definitions of woke, and that's why some people are okay with modern storytelling and some people don't. They feel it's being pushed on them. But nobody, and I think this is true, I think everybody agrees, though, diversity is fine when it's natural in the flow of things. When you make a Nordic Viking black, you're just ignoring historical fact and you're ignoring reality. And I think that annoys people. But if someone were to get mad because there was a black character in a movie, well, then that's just stupid. I mean, because black people exist. They're going to be in movies. They're going to be in shows. They should be. If you're going to try to cancel somebody because they have an all-white cast, I think that's foolish too, because maybe that's just a story they want to tell in that realm of things. We're so hyper-focused on race and gender that we don't realize we're doing the opposite effect of. We're actually segregating ourselves. We're separating ourselves. We're putting everybody in these little neat boxes of where they belong. You belong here because you're LGBT. You belong here because you're white. You belong here because you're Asian. No, we all belong here in storytelling. Protagonists, antagonists, the hero's journey can apply to everyone, whether you're Bishop or you're Superman or you're Wonder Woman or you're Monica Rambeau. It doesn't matter. And nobody ever cared before. Nobody ever complained. They're only upset now because they feel the writing is for the wrong reason. So getting back to storytelling, I think the things that are hurting modern storytelling are they don't have experienced writers writing anymore. They have people that want to write either from their own personal pains that they want to put out there something, like a young woman maybe that went through some stuff. She's going to make every man look bad when she writes a story. Or a guy who sees women as only sexual objects is going to write a story just that, although I haven't seen that. It's just an example to be fair on both sides. We're writing to check boxes. We're writing to push agendas and messages that nobody wants to listen to. Nobody wants to be preached at. We want to be entertained. I think they're not well-established writers with a good resume and experience. And I think that everything is just dark and gritty, and it's kind of one-dimensional now. I don't know about you, but I'm tired of the angry Superman. I like the wholesome Superman. That doesn't mean I don't like my Venoms and my Lobos. Of course I do. But there's got to be a balance that I think we've lost in storytelling. And I want to relate to characters. When you look back at all your favorite comics, your favorite storyline is probably because you connected to someone in that story. They made you feel you weren't alone in what you're going through. That's what connects us. And I think entertainment has gone from what connects us all to showing how different we are and trying to segregate and separate us. And I think those are problems. Honestly, I can agree with you, Phil. The older stories are written better, characters are designed better. The reasons why X-Men and so works is because it brings back classic storytelling, more stories that need do that. I agree. Good point on Sinatra and Black Star. I was aware of them too, for what that's worth. I saw them in TV too. Exactly. I mean, I knew about Bob Hope and all of them. They were part of my culture too. What's up, Michael? How are you? Different characters and different stories should have different tones and face different challenges because they're, different. I'm not sure if you're agreeing with me or disagreeing with me, Guido, but here's the thing. It's not saying that you can't address cultural differences, like, a black person going through something different than a white person. But if you were to write a story that's to show how bad white people are and they're all racist and black people are victims, I don't think that's good storytelling. And for the record, I was slashed over my eye, straight to my skull, $4,000 plastic surgery for being a white man in a black neighborhood. I am a victim of racism. I don't hold all black people accountable for two assholes. And I'm not going to go write a story about being a poor, oppressed white man because all black people are bad. That's not storytelling. That's not writing. That's division. That's antagonistic in nature. That is pushing an agenda. We have to start writing, I think, again, and I think our media has to start portraying what we all connect with and stop dividing us. We can acknowledge other cultures within the realm and context of good storytelling without alienating anybody else. Because at the end of the day, whether it's an African culture or a Japanese culture, we all face the same things deep down. Look at The Last Samurai with Tom Cruise. Never a Tom Cruise fan, but I love that movie. His culture was totally different than theirs. And it showed the American culture, and it showed the Japanese culture, and the samurai culture, which is different than the regular Japanese culture. It's different. It's more extreme with honor and integrity, etc. And it showed all three different cultures, but it also showed how they connect. Because we all feel greed. We all feel anger. We all feel aggression, but we also all feel love. And we also feel loyalty and camaraderie and humility. And Tom Cruise had to learn humility, and he learned loyalty, and he learned to understand other cultures and not just see his own. And the Japanese government bureaucrats were greedy and nasty and wanted to kill all the samurai. It was just realistic. And again, the samurai, showed their honor. They showed their loyalty. They showed that they can change too, by accepting him in and turning him from an enemy to an ally. And they all died together. I mean, that's storytelling. They were able to show diverse cultures without making one culture the bad guy or alienating a culture or acting like one is worse than the other. There was no agenda. There was no political or ideological push in there. It was just quality storytelling that hit you in the heart. Because anybody who's seen that movie feels it. And we've lost that. Because everything is anger and aggression and anti-heroes, and it's corny to be the Boy Scout. I like the Boy Scout. We need a few Boy Scouts. Not everyone, but we need a few Boy Scouts. And I'm not saying go back to the golden age of DC. That was definitely for young kids. But when you look at the Bronze Age, even some of the Silver Age, and you look at, the 80s, it appealed to younger kids with a few adult themes, but done in a way that they can relate. But everybody related. I mean, if you talk to anybody who read comics, no matter what their cultural background, race, gender, whatever their creed was, that we all loved the same stories from Ditko and and Claremont and Ramirez and all of them, and well, sorry, it's 2 weeks old. Maybe you should catch up and not tune into my stream that says I'm going to be discussing it. So we all enjoy those stories. Nobody ever felt the need to say, I didn't relate to the Fantastic Four because no one was black. Black people love that book too. Latinos didn't complain they couldn't relate to Black Panther because we know Latinos in it. We didn't have these debates. We didn't have these issues. We loved those comics. Why? Because whether you were black or brown or Asian, you all related to Peter Parker on some level, right? Because life was just kicking him in the teeth, and it was hard. And he was working hard and trying, and it didn't always pan out, but he kept pushing, right? It was a relatable character. He was a relatable character to everyone, because at the end of the day, the only race that matters is the human race, right? If we're going to talk about racism, maybe stop all this boxing, putting people in boxes. This has to be a black-driven comic. This has to be a female-driven comic. This has to be a Asian-driven. How about we just do comics? Like Tragedy has Chinese culture, Italian culture, Irish culture, Russian culture, a bunch of other things in there because it's just what I wanted to write in the story, not to check boxes. We were dealing with different mafias, and they have different factions, so to speak. And I do love old martial arts movies and movies like Big Trouble in Little China with Chinese mysticism, etc. And I wanted to write that story. But at the heart of it is an Irish assassin because I'm Irish. And I didn't check any boxes. I don't force that. In the first 12 or 13 issues, I don't have a black character because you know what? I didn't have anything to write for a black character that made sense. Later on, I actually came up with a biker gang that was a black biker gang called the Rattlers, I believe. It's for the sake of storytelling, and that's what it should be. And again, you can write people of any creed that you relate to. Guido Martinez lives in Argentina. He's Latino by category, and he lives in South America, not even the American culture. And I don't know his culture well. He writes superhero books that you can relate to, just like I do. And we enjoy his books. He enjoys our books because that's what we're writing for. Enjoyment, entertainment, to connect each other. And I think comics and media have gone from their greatest power of making us not feel alone and connecting us with the fact that other people are feeling this. That I see a little of me in Daredevil, like when we read Born Again, it resonated with us on an emotional level. All of us. We can sit down 20 different cultures around a table and we can all talk fondly about comic books in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and even 90s, right? But flash forward to today and we're arguing because there's not enough representation of this person or that person or the woke fight. I don't think that's what comics are supposed to be, and that's just me. Most of the times I think it's best people don't go digging into our culture. Enjoy the highs, ignore the lows, and that's fine. Fair enough. I agree with so much segregation in the storytelling. Yeah, I mean, the other thing too is this whole you can't relate to my culture because blah, blah, blah. I don't agree. We all face hatred. We all face racism. We all face bigotry. We all face kindness. We all face love. We all have that loyal friend and that disloyal friend. We've all faced betrayal and disappointment. We've all felt insecure and beaten down, and we've all felt triumphant and on top of the world. We all do. I don't care who you are. We all do. We all do. And I just think storytelling needs to go back to that. And when I look at X-Men episode 5, it had all the great elements, and it incorporated some of the darker ones of today. But it did it well because at the end, we were able to relate because we all want to be that hero. I mean, how many guys out there fantasize, whether it's before you're sleeping or whatever, of saving somebody, saving the day, being that hero and saving somebody for that moment? I think we've all done it, right? We all want to be heroes. I'm sure women have done it too. I mean, we have to get back to writing about what we all have in common, what makes us all human, what we have together, And that's just what I was thinking. I mean, I don't know what your thoughts are, what you guys think about writing today. Because I've even seen people that they may not be the best writers, but what they were doing with the story, I thought was good. Maybe they need to fine tune a little bit. Cinderella Man, amazing movie. Oh my God. You don't even have to be a pugilist fan. Exactly. The movie Cinderella Man really resonates with me, and I'm not a pugilist from Jersey. Exactly. Cinderella Man is every parent, mother or father. It's every man, woman, or child. It's just the human struggle, of life. And it didn't have to downplay anyone else to upplay the protagonist. Because that's not how real life works. At least not with anything healthy or conducive. That's a great choice of a movie. Cinderella Man when he gets hit real hard and his mouthpiece comes flying out of his mouth and the music's hitting and all he can think about is milk and bread and his kids being cold and taken away, and that's what motivated him to not go down. That is some powerful, powerful storytelling. When's the last time you saw that in a movie? When's the last time that you got reached right to your heart in a comic like that? I mean, they're writing about shallow, superficial, silly stuff because I don't think they want you to think deep anymore. Yes, smiles and puts the piece back in, and that other boxer looked at him like, oh my God, I just gave him the hardest hit, and he's smiling at me, and it killed that dude's confidence. And it's based on a true story. This guy who built the Tappan Zee Bridge, went to World War II, crazy stuff, won the championship. But I just, that's my thoughts. I mean, you're all welcome to join in and tell me what you think. And what do you think about what I said about the definitions of woke and how they're different to certain people? Because I don't think anybody cares that you make Falcon Captain America per se. Because to me, if you're going to do that, it makes sense because Falcon was his partner for so long. It's more that it's lazy writing that you don't want to build up the Falcon, Sam Wilson, for his own title. So you'd rather make him Captain America to steal the mythos of Captain America. And that's what that really is. It's companies not wanting to invest the time or the money in building up a Luke Cage or a black character or creating new black character. Look at Icon. It's easier to make Superman black in some other universe because you got the S on the chest and you're riding the mythos of Superman. It's cost effective for a company and it's going to do sales because people are jumping on for Superman, and it's awesome to have a black Superman now where Icon is sitting right there and you could easily be building him up. Solid character. Why can't you build him up, right? Why we're going to do Ironheart and make a female black Iron Man instead of using hardwire. Or is it hardware? I'm sorry. Why? You've got those solid characters sitting right there. Why can't you build them up and make them relatable? Because of money. It costs too much to start building up a fan base, getting low print runs on Icon issue 1, as opposed to Black Superman, boom, Black Superman, boom, Black Superman, yay! And you sell a bunch of issues. It's the same thing with making characters gay after 30 years. People are mad at that. I think they should be. You're changing the character. Sorry, you know, I do believe that you're born gay. You don't just decide to be gay. I do think that. So then why would you think that all of a sudden Tim Drake became bisexual out of nowhere after 30 years? It makes no sense. Create a gay character. They made North Star gay in the 90s and nobody batted an eye and cared. Why? It made sense to his personality, and they didn't focus on it. It wasn't the core of the story. Because he's not defined by being gay, he's defined by being a human. His sexual preference is just a part of a multitude of aspects that make him a person. And that's it. But when you put out Iceman, not only did you make him gay after 30 years of having girlfriends and pining over Jean Grey as well, which is silly, you made his solo series all about his sexual preference. Well, you're alienating people that can't relate to that, for one thing. So you're going again into that box, right? We're going to make this for this person, but to hell with this person. As opposed to entertainment that relates to everyone. You know, we want to see superheroes battle the odds and face gods and monsters and save the world. That other drama is filler stuff, but when you make the central point of a book someone's sexual, like imagine they had X-Men turned into, the whole premise of it is Cyclops and Jean's relationship, and it gets into showing him bare-assed in bed and they're constantly kissing and it's all about them dating and stuff. I don't think anybody would really be interested anymore, heterosexual or homosexual. I don't think they'd care. It's not good writing. And it's not because they made him gay per se. It's just not good writing. Create a gay character. And you don't have to vilify a whole group of people to express some of the trials and tribulations maybe a certain demographic goes through. We're not saying ignore them. I'm not saying they don't exist. I'm not saying that some people don't go through things more regularly than others. I'm just saying if that's your forefront, then all you're trying to do is push away other people by telling them how bad they are just for being who they are. And that's counterproductive to an anti-racist statement. It makes no sense to me. Hey, Eric, what's going on? Yeah, the Bobby, you're gay is the definition of lazy writing. I mean, even how he was discovered to be gay was lazy. She had to tell him. It was just dumb. It was bad. It was bad writing, in my opinion. And I just don't get it. You know, when did we care so much about how different we were? Because I find it interesting, because I really do think we're in an age right now where we're more tolerant of diverse cultures than we ever have been. It's not to say it still doesn't have its issues, but I think we're more tolerant than ever. I mean, if someone right now said, "Oh, Phil, your video is gay," they'd get blasted. They'd get attacked by a lot of people. I think we're more tolerant than we've ever been, but yet we're focused on our differences more than ever. I find that odd, because if we just focused on what we have in common, we'd probably be getting rid of all the bigotry and stuff. Don't you think? I mean, if our stories were more about relating to everyone instead of checking a box, don't you think that would be more conducive to making people stop focusing on race? It's just me. But I think storytelling is suffering, and it needs to change. And I'm sorry to segue into this, but I think there's a lot of indie writers that are writing quality stories that aren't preaching at you, and they're not agenda driven, and they're not activists, and they are passionate about storytelling, and they're new and interesting stories. But people don't want to buy that stuff. They don't want to eat it up. They want to eat up the same garbage that's spoon fed to them. And I think it's like the frog on the frying pan, right? If you're slowly putting up the heat, the frog doesn't realize it's cooking until it's too late. Well, I think that's what's happened with media. Over the last 20 years, media has slowly just been getting worse and worse, to where I think people have become complacent and comfortable with bad storytelling, and they don't even realize it anymore. They don't know what good storytelling is anymore because they're used to She-Hulk. I'm sorry, that show was atrocious. It was terrible. It wasn't funny. It didn't land what it was supposed to land. It wasn't funny. She was written as an insult to women, in my opinion, and men were all written like they were total idiots. It wasn't funny. It wasn't action-packed. The designs were terrible, and the humor didn't land. It was just horrible storytelling. I'm sorry. That's what I think it is. And you're welcome to disagree. The good thing is you can disagree with me, and I can still be your friend or still respect you or like you. I'm not going to fight with you. I just think it's poor storytelling, and I think we've become accustomed to it. I mean, I remember the last run of great storytelling was when we had Breaking Bad, Justified, Sons of Anarchy were out at the same time, and that was some good stuff. And it just seems like it's gone downhill from there, in my opinion. And if obviously I'm not watching a ton of stuff, so there may be shows that I should be counting as really quality, and I'm not. I apologize. I can only go by what I've seen. But I mean, you even look at the She-Ra cartoon they brought out years ago. It was agenda driven and pushed, and it's also dummied down. It made them teenagers whiny in high school, as opposed to the original She-Ra. As much as it was for kids and had the moral lesson, it was still rebels against the Horde. They were adults, They weren't whiny crybaby teenagers. It feels like they're dumbing down media, and they're dumbing down the quality of entertainment and storytelling, and we're just getting used to it, and we're becoming complacent with it, to where we don't even know what's good anymore. And maybe you think I'm a pompous ass for saying that, and you're welcome to, but that's just what I think. I mean, what do you guys think about that? Do you think entertainment has started to go downhill, that we're becoming complacent with subpar entertainment? Hey, Charles, drop your link. Cold Cutter 3, live now. I agree, it's the writers they hire. They're not really writers. They're activists. They don't have writing experience. They don't. You look at all their resumes, they don't. Even the directors of films don't have experience now. I mean, like the new Ray movie for Star Wars, she did documentaries for women in Afghanistan. What is her qualification for doing a Star Wars movie? I don't care it's a woman. I don't care if she's Afghan. I don't care. I care that what is this woman's resume that got her this job? That's what I care about. You know, you won't hire Chuck Dixon back on Batman or Peter David back on the Hulk or Claremont back on X-Men, but you're hiring people with agendas that have very little writing experience or not a good track record. Oh wow, it's when the alert came up over it. Oh wow, it's Philip Russell. Good to see you back on camera, buddy. Hey man, how you doing? Thanks. Yeah, they're pushing politics into everything. Poor sense of design and direction, everything. I agree. And the thing is, a lot of people are saying this, and then there's certain people that attack them, calling them ists and phobes and all this stuff. And it's not, because nobody ever minded at all. Storm, Sunfire, Banshee, Colossus, Nightcrawler, Thunderbird. I mean, you had a Native American, you had an Asian, you had a black woman from Africa, you had a German, you had a Russian, you had an Irishman. Nobody had a problem with that at all. We had a Canadian. Nobody had a problem with that at all because the stories were written well. It wasn't about that. It wasn't about their identity. It was about their character. Pandering sells. Even if it gets more haters than fans, it still gets talked about. And that's true. And these days, entertainment, again, the negativity, outrage is the new way to get noticed. If it's not sex, it's outrage. And those are the two things that sell: sex and negativity, sex and violence, right? And there's degrees of violence and there's degrees of sex. So I'm not against them, but we've gotten so dark with it and so angry. I mean, it really shows and reflects. I'm sorry, but when I watched She-Hulk, all I could think was a woman who's angry at men and bitter with them for some reason wrote that story. Angry and bitter. You know, these shows are being written by angry, bitter people that want to send their message through these shows. And I don't think that's good storytelling. I don't. I want to bring us all together. Again, I love movies like Falling Down. It's nice to have that release once in a while of that feeling of just screw the rules. You know, psychologists always said the reason why we love zombie movies and post-apocalyptic films is because deep down we have a deep-seated subconscious want to just say to hell with the rules, right? Well, those societies' rules have collapsed. There are no more rules to follow. No one's got to pay a mortgage or a rent or starve, right? You're free. It may be a hard life, but you're technically free. There are no rules anymore. Just survive. And that's why we psychologically love zombie films and post-apocalyptic, you know, Mad Max type of films, because the rules are all thrown out the window. And we're all feeling powerless to certain rules. And anger is coming out more and more in everything. You know, and I wish there was less anger and less propaganda and less agenda and more relatable storytelling. And I do take pride, and I'm proud of this. I think I do a good job of it, but it's up to you to say. The stories I write hit you in a human level where we can all relate. I really think I'm good at that, and I think I do a good job with the dialogue, etc. I'm not saying I'm the best writer in the world, but I do think that. And I don't know if anybody's read my books. You tell me if I'm wrong. If you think I'm wrong, I respect that. It's okay. But that's what I think about modern storytelling. You're all welcome to chime in more and tell me what you think. If anybody opposes the view, etc. Again, also another thing on media, social media is when people say they didn't like a show, they get attacked for being nasty and hating everything. We're not looking at the credibility of why a lot of people don't like something. We're just attacking them for not liking it. That's what the agenda is meant to do. Turn us against each other. You know? I mean, people are yelling at people for not liking Captain Marvel. It had nothing to do with her being a woman. And then when we use the Ripley comparison and the Sarah Connor, people try to make an argument there that I think is flawed. The difference between the Sarah Connor, we'll take for example Ripley, right? Sarah Connor and Ripley were not superhuman. They were average people, but they were capable. But Sarah Connor needed Reese's help, and at the end, when Reese died, Sarah found a way to overcome. But her journey continued into the second one, where she became strong and capable and fearless for the sake of her son. That's the motivation, right? What greater motivation for a mother than to protect her offspring? In my opinion, there's nothing more dangerous than a mom looking to protect her kid. Period. I don't care what fucking species you are. Don't mess with a mom's kid or you're dead. Look at Ripley. Ripley was smart and capable, but that android almost killed her. She wasn't flawless. She had to get saved. But at the end, she survived. She didn't kick its ass and take names. She survived because she did her best to use her wits and put herself in a good position. She was flawed. She was imperfect. And she survived. Her journey continued in the second Aliens. She was so far in the future, she lost her daughter. She didn't have anything to live for anymore. So as scared as she was, and she admitted she was scared, she said, screw it, I'm going back. And then she found Newt. And Newt gave her a reason to want to live and survive because she was a mother again. There was motivation. There was a hero's journey. There was an arc that showed her becoming more. Nothing was easy for her. She had to work for it. And she came out on top. That's a progression that we all should look to enjoy out of movies, you know? And that's strong women. Look at the first Wonder Woman. She was a strong, capable woman, but she didn't understand their culture, so she was flawed in not knowing their culture. So Trevor was the strength in showing her culture. And as much as she was stronger, she could kick Trevor's ass, he was a hero too. They worked well together because at the end of the day, I believe women complement men's shortcomings and men complement women's shortcomings, and we're only better together. And instead of putting one down to strengthen the other, why can't we write them both as strong? Because the last time I checked, my wife is my partner in life, and the two of us handle this nonsense together. And when I was down and out in these last 2 weeks, my wife was a rock. She was super strong and everything I could have asked for in a partner in life. She was strong for everyone. And when she needed to break down yesterday, I was strong for her. And that Wonder Woman movie, the first one, was a perfect demonstration of how you write a strong woman without putting down men. And they've gotten away from that. Why? Agenda. They have writers that are just pissed off at men and they don't know how to write, or they're trying to push an agenda of divide. And it's not good entertainment. And it shows in box office. It shows in sales receipts. It shows in lack of going to the movies or streaming even. You know, people don't want anything unless they can get it for free on Max, which is not really free because you're paying your monthly subscription. And it shows. You know, the term go woke or go broke. Again, it means different things to whatever your ideology is. Woke to some people is the promotion of diversity and showing what other cultures go through and things of that nature. But to most that I see, woke is pushing an agenda and dividing, and it's preaching at us instead of doing storytelling. I do agree with the latter, to be honest with you. Not to say there aren't some pig-headed people that just don't like change or don't want diversity. We need diversity. But we have to stop blurring the lines of what's being said here, you know? And at the end of the day, the most important priority should be the story and who am I relating to? You know, there's a lot of political parodies now. I'm personally not a fan of them because you're just pissing off 50% of the country, you know, making Trump look stupid, making Biden look stupid. I don't find that to be entertainment. It's actually just negativity, and it's not original. It's not fun. It's not new. It's one thing when you did a little snippet on SNL or Cracked Magazine or Mad Magazine, but to make full comics just to make a president look stupid. That's not my thing. If it is yours, good for you. Enjoy your political parody. But I'm about the shit that brings us together more than the stuff that doesn't. That's me. And when I go negative and I call somebody out, that's because they're doing these things. They're tearing things apart. They're being mean. They're being hurtful. They're being destructive to the industry I love. That's when I call people out. Otherwise, I live and let live. I don't bother people. There are people that do dumb posts every day. I just ignore it. Woke shouldn't be seen as an agenda, but they commodify it, and that sucks. And that's the thing, is there's a lot of moral people are putting a lot of moral value on everything now, to the point where if you disagree with someone on how a story's told, you're a bad person. If you vote for this person, you're a bad person. You're evil. If you didn't make if you're not happy with the Viking being black, which goes totally against genetics and historical fact, you're a bad person. You know, if you didn't like a movie that just happened to have a female protagonist, you're a bad person. That vilification is just stupid, and it's just divisive, and it's not what comics is supposed to be to me. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. You guys tell me, am I wrong about comics? I mean, we all related to the comics in the 70s, 80s, 90s, didn't we? We all did. You know, Superman, the one thing that you relate to is that he felt alone. You know, we all feel alone at times. We could be at a party among 20, 30 people and sit in a corner and just feel like we don't fit in. How many of us have felt that way? Probably all of us. Every one of us at some point has felt like we don't belong or didn't know where we belonged. Right? How many of us, we understand we're flawed, but we want to be better. And we look at Superman with his altruism and his integrity and his loyalty and his honor, and we love it and we embrace it because we wish and want to be like that. It seems like more people would rather be the Punisher and be angry and give in to their angry tendencies. You know, people want to just let loose and say, screw it, F everybody, I'm just pissed off and I don't care anymore. And it's reflecting in media. It's reflecting in storytelling. It's not good. Anyway, that was just me rambling on about some thoughts after watching 2 shows last night. Don't mind me. I guess I got, 3:30 in the morning. I had nothing better to do. But if you guys have anything you want to add, please do. When they key hook to a story is the race, gender, or political views of the main characters, that already tells me that the story product isn't worth my time. I agree with you, Guido. Woke is looking at the world in terms of oppressors and oppressed, sees inequality instead of merit, skills, and beauty, and is an ideology determined to break everything to create equality. See, I absolutely agree with you. I do. But the people that would argue with you and tell you you're wrong have a totally different definition of woke, and that's the problem. And again, I do think there's conditioning going on, but I agree with you. And by the way, I was a guest on Genuine Comics Live YouTube show earlier today, and I just want everybody to know, please go check it out, and even check out that show. David Brink is the creator and writer of his book. Oh my God, I lost the name of the book. I'm sorry. Drop your link, David. Drop your link to your book right now. I'm so sorry, I couldn't think. And he has a live campaign that launched yesterday, so go check that out and support him, and go check out his YouTube channel and subscribe, and maybe go check out my episode that I was on today. Apparently the new Fallout series is solid with a female protagonist. Yeah, I watched the first 2 episodes, and so far it was fine. Perfect 10, that's it. I'm so sorry. I knew it was 10. I couldn't think of the first word. Don't mind me. I apologize. Perfect 10. He's got an awesome art book right now, and you can sign up for Perfect 10 issue 5. That's in that's pre-campaign right now. You can click the link and sign up for that, and you can pledge on the Perfect 10 art book, which is beautiful hardcover. I think it's 144 pages. It's got some great goodies in there. Go check it out. Drop your link, man. But so that's just my thoughts. I don't know what you guys think. You know, what are your thoughts? Like, for me, One of my favorite movies of all time is Scent of a Woman. Some people say Al Pacino overreacted that part, but the truth is, it was about loyal. It was about a loyalty and integrity. And not that I'm perfect, and not that I don't make mistakes, but I do value those things very, very much so, more than anything, because I think without those two, you don't really have anything worth a damn. You can't have truly a loving relationship without those, and you can't have friendships without those. So that's one of my favorite movies for that reason. And to be honest with you, there were times in my life I suffered depression and didn't want to be here anymore. So that was that. You related to those characters. Shawshank Redemption. I mean, it's an analogy to the prison that we all have. I have my posters up on my prison wall right here. I have to work every day at a job I hate to keep this wall and this art and everything up, and I buy that art just to deal with my prison. So there's a lot of analogy, a metaphor there. Those are some of my favorite movies. Falling Down is a favorite movie of mine for that one part of me that is fed up with the nonsense. Um, but all of them had human elements. Falling Down had so many lessons, so many themes in that movie without preaching at anyone, and it was all true. Whether it was the way we treat each other, or the corporate lies, or the bureaucratic nonsense, or even just the mental health issues that go unnoticed in the country. There's a lot of mentally ill people going around right now, just dealing with life, not getting help. And just that line at the end, he goes, "So I'm the bad guy?" I mean, man, if that doesn't hit you, I don't know what does. Where are those stories again? Where are they? I missed them. Anyway, that's me just shooting out some thoughts. I'm gonna head out. Before I do, forgive me for the solicitation, but if you are interested in good storytelling, I got Tragedy, the trade paperback, live on a campaign right now, 144 pages. You can get a Chris Bachalo, a David Mack, or a Bill Sienkiewicz cover. And I also, the main part of that book, of that campaign is there's original published covers by big names, including Bill Sienkiewicz on it. If you want original art by some big names, it's there. And of course, the hardcover edition, sequential edition. This is 192 pages, all scans like an IDW artist edition, but it's my version, no lettering. But it has 150 pages of sequential art pages, all the interiors to Tragedy 1 through 5, along with about 30 or so covers from major names. Bachalo, Ian Churchill, Will Spatasio, Tyler Kirkham, they're all in there. With some other goodies too. Word from Ricardo, word from me. And that's the back. And this is a heavy, big 11 by 17 tabloid edition book. And it's available right now at 6 days to go. If you're interested, it's a really good collectible, and you can enjoy the art without having to spend hundreds of dollars on pages. So there's that. There's also Filbo Publishing Presents, which is a trade paperback for $15, I believe, that it has Tragedy 1, Dynamics 1, and Withered 1 in the book. So you can sample size my writing and see what you think for just $15. And I think the PDF is 10, if I'm correct. So check it out. And again, please go check out Genuine Comics, David Brink, Perfect 10 art book going on right now. It launched last night at midnight, and sign up for his book coming up. Please go check out Charles W. Morgan's Cold Cutter 3, which is live right now. If you like gritty crime noir, some awesome black and white art interiors done by Charles. It's got Joe Rubenstein on some covers. Good gritty storytelling if you like that crime-driven, action-packed story. DM Ray, published through Filbo Publishing at the end of this month, April 30th, is launching his D&D fantasy story. It is called The Madcaps. It revolves around 4 friends that are like brothers, and their camaraderie and how they come together to deal with a threat that comes to a town. Again, it's D&D setting. And if you're a role player, you're going to love this because we have miniatures, and D20s of the characters. and a D20, and it's really cool. We're gonna have a map of the world, so it's kind of a nice amalgamation of D&D fantasy RPG and comic book. It's book issue 1 of a 3-issue series. So go sign up for that. Ray dropped the link. Guido Martinez just wrapped up issue 5 of Night. You guys are missing out on that book. You can order it through us. You can reach out to Guido or myself. If you missed out, we also have the trade paperback, which is issues 1 through 4 with some extras. And that's a really good urban fantasy action tale that mixes fantasy and superhero elements. So check that out. A lot of great stuff in the indie community, guys. If you want new, original, fresh, or even just passionate storytelling that's not corporate driven, not agenda driven, it's not shareholder driven, it's just story driven. I just named a bunch right there to check out. And there's other great people. Christopher Elston with Rabbit's Badass Song, Lee Giles has Red Scare and some other stuff. Go check out indie, guys. We may not be getting the love or the attention, but there's a lot of good books out there if you really want good story content to read. If you're just a collector and you like covers, that's cool. Some of these guys also have some great variants. But if you're seeking out stories that connect with you, so many of us are putting them out there. Give them a try, okay? All right. I guess I'll leave it at that. Everybody's done chiming in. You're welcome to comment more even after this is over. If you have comments you want to make, people will see it on the after review. And tell us what you think about modern storytelling and what's good, what's not good. Is there anything wrong with it, or maybe it's not? Maybe you think it's all fantastic. Let us know. Share it out. And again, please check out my campaign live. Before I go, I wrote a 110-page graphic novel called Papa, and it's a tribute to my dad. It'll be $15,000 to make this book because it's 110 pages. And my dad had asked me if I could get it in his hands before he died, because he got diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And I tried to get the money, and it's been difficult to raise the money. In 5 weeks, my father went from bench pressing 165 pounds a day to passing away last week. And I failed to get the book in his hands. And it's been a rough time for a lot of reasons. And I still want to make the book for him, though. So just know that anyone who pledges and contributes to the current campaign or any future campaign of mine other than Madcaps, because that's not my IP, anything that I do, the money is going to go towards getting that book made as a tribute to my dad. I'm not saying this as a marketing gimmick or to try to sucker you into anything. This isn't you can feed a starving kid in Africa for the price of a cup of coffee. I'm not trying that shit. I'm being sincere where the money's going. So even if you just want to donate 5 to the campaign or 10, I'd be grateful, because I really want to get this book in his hands. But it's 110 pages to be drawn, inked, colored, lettered, edited, etc. And the last thing I guess I'll say before I go is a lot of people are fighting and arguing lately. And, we had an artist take his own life recently because of it. I just lost my dad. I know Carlos lost his mom last year. We've all lost someone. Let go of the anger and the bitterness, guys. Let's not fight. We don't know how much time we have on this planet. Let's use comics to unite people and stories to show us what we have in common. And enough with the outrage. Be better, not bitter. On that note, I appreciate all that reached out to me to see if I was okay during this dark time. I appreciate those who continue to support me and be there for me. I've got some good friends here that I've met. So social media is not all that bad. There's some good people out there. They're just keeping their heads down, so you're probably not seeing them. Anyway, I appreciate you guys. Thank you for those who have supported and who support in the future. And I just want to say I wish everybody the best of health, happiness, and a success, however you deem it. But let's try to be one instead of separate each other. Stop fighting. Anyway, I'm going to leave you with what I always leave you with. Be legendary and have fun storming the castle.